Vengeance in the London Derby. Let's do our player ratings. Arsenal 2, Brentford 1. Let's do this. Hey guys, welcome to She Knows Arsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JustCKnowTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Arsenal 2, Brentford 1. When I was going to get ready, I was like, okay, Arsenal 2, Brentford 0. Not sure what happened there. I honestly haven't even seen the goal, so I don't know what happened. But nevertheless, we were dominant. We needed to win that game. We did win it. Yes, and we got vengeance for the first game of the season. Commentary over here. They talked about that game from minute 1 to minute 90. Oh, Brentford, what they did on the first game of the season. Oh, Brentford, remember when they beat Arsenal? We can stop talking about that now. We all knew what was going on. Like, we all knew what happened, and now we can stop talking about it. We're the better team. It's obvious. Like, let's just get over it. But very dominant performance from Arsenal. I would like to say it was never in doubt, but I know at halftime I was doubting. I was like, okay, well, is all of this possession and nice play going to go to waste because we don't have the clinical edge? And I do think that there are questions to be asked about certain players that just didn't have that clinical edge. And that's not to say that what they added in build up and all of that was not good. But in the end of the day, we need players that are going to take responsibility and put the ball in the back of the net. And I think there was quite a few instances in the first half where it was just like, come on, you need to shoot the ball. You need to try to at least work the keeper and things like that. I think it was like 16 chances, but only 2 on goal. That's not good enough. Second half rolls around. ESR does what ESR does best. Flashes of brilliance, like straight into the box, cuts it in, kicks in the back of the net. And it from there, for me, it was never in doubt because I was like, there's no way we're going to give up a goal. We did, but I don't think at 1-0 we would have given it up. We definitely probably clicked off towards the very end of the game. And then Saka scores a brilliant goal off of the left-hand side when Brentford really started trying to come at us. And so we saw the two sides of Arsenal that we've been building towards for a long time, which is the team that can play the basketball match, when the game is stretched and can hit teams on the counter. And also the Arsenal that could be patient and kind of create chances when a team is bunkered in. And I think we were relatively successful. Obviously, Brentford are a pretty bad team going through a pretty bad period, but we have to be able to take advantage of these types of teams. And we did so. And that was a much better performance at home against a bottom feeder side than it was against Burnley. And so, yeah, I have very little to be upset about beyond feeling like we should have had more goals. If we had won 3-0, we would have been in 5th. So the margins are very, very thin there. But there were a lot of really good performances there. There were a lot of good flashes of brilliance. There were some players that probably need to just improve a little bit more on their clinical edge. But overall, I'm excited about what I saw today. And we can go into the Wolves match with 2 wins on the bounce, which is what we needed in February, right? So there's about 80 of you guys here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're going to go ahead and get into our player ratings. And I'm going to bring Souls in. Hey, Souls.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How you feeling?
I'm buzzing, actually. Yeah, good performance. I think there's a lot to be talked about in terms of just how we played and how the players played as well, and individual performances today. There's going to be a few shocking praises going around, actually. So yeah, no, I'm happy. We're at that stage where actually we turn up, towards the end of the season, but this time it's a little bit different. For a while, we've got something to play for. Not to say we didn't. I know we finished 8th when we were fighting for like sort of top 5, top 6, but now we've got something real and tangible and to blow expectations, which is try and get into top 5, so top 6, top 4, sorry. And yeah, it's exciting. Now we can chill, relax, and watch Tottenham versus City and see if they drop points or not.
Yeah, for sure. And I know a lot of people are going to kind of want to watch that game as well. So we'll try to keep it as brief as possible. But we do have to go ahead and go through our player ratings. And I think, do we want to touch on the little incident with Xhaka really quick? Like people are making it a bigger deal than what it needs to be. He didn't want the armband. and Tierney took it later. What are your thoughts on that? Is it something that we need to be worried about, or is it just like whatever? I mean, I'm sure most people don't want him to have the armband, so if he didn't want to take it, then like, what do you do?
I think he's aware of fan opinions. There is obviously that overwhelming, not hate, but like a dislike to him. So, yeah, I mean, look, people are going to look into it because there's nothing else to complain about. We won the game, substitutions were fine. So they're like, oh, what's the one thing we can try and dig out? And that is Xhaka didn't want the armband. If he took the armband, they would have complained. If he doesn't take it, they complain. I really don't really give a shit, like, because I'm sick of that like that sort of section of the fan basis. They just want to complain, and yeah, if you took it, that's the thing. I don't care. It's the right thing
It
not to
felt
take
like
it.
such a
Tierney is a
nothing
vice
moment.
captain. Yeah,
It
yeah,
felt like a very nothing moment that was being kind of tried to make into something, and it's not really that big of a deal. He didn't want the armband. He doesn't want the stress of it. We know that when he has it, it's a lot more stressful, so whatever. And so, yeah, but I think let's go ahead and get started. We'll start off with Ramsdale. He didn't have much to do. I thought he came out and claimed crosses when he needed to. Again, I haven't seen the goal, so I don't know if he was culpable for that Norgard
no,
goal or not. But I thought he was okay. I thought his range of passing from the back is good. He likes to take risks. Sometimes they work out for us, sometimes they don't. We saw that some of his passes were being picked off by the Brentford players, but overall, I think those balls that he was putting in behind to Emile Smith-Rowe were really dangerous. Some of the passes that he made to Party and the passes that he made to Xhaka, kind of in the middle, like the center of the pitch, were really good. So it was varied. When you take more risks, you're likely to be less successful every single time. So I'm willing to take that, knowing that what we get on the plus side is so good. So for me, I'm going to give Ramsdale a 7. I thought he was good, and so if he wasn't culpable for the goal, which again I didn't see, thought he was good. And Ransom Pumpkin said he was shaky, but I didn't really see that he was shaky. I think he takes risks with his passing, and that's what we ask him to do. So it's not going to be perfect. What do you think?
yeah. No, I agree. I think if you're looking at a goalkeeper performance, it's probably like a 5-6. But
Mm.
his distribution really massively helped us kind of break their defense and bypass their midfield, and I think it gave us that sort of positive turn, which we haven't obviously when we look at the away performance at the start of the season when Leonard was in goal. This isn't throwing shade, but this is just more comparing when you have a distribution keeper in comparison to when you don't have one. And for me, that's the big difference today was how important he was in terms of going short, going long, understanding when to play against the pressure and when to alleviate the defenders of their duties to not play against the press. So, and I think he commanded that well. And yeah, it's got to be a 7 just because of the distribution. He didn't have much to do as a keeper. And in terms of the goal, it was such a wit. Like I thought it was offside, so I can't really sit here and start blaming names and stuff. So yeah, I'd say 7.
Yeah, I mean, some people are saying he was at fault. Again, I didn't see it. So if he was, then that would knock him down to maybe like a 5 or a 6 or whatever. But ultimately, I just don't think he had enough to do, but his distribution was good. So there you go. I thought Cedric had a sneaky good performance. Like, I
Mm.
actually thought he was really good, to be honest. Like, his distribution from the back in terms of his crossing was really good. He was really ticking along with Saka and Odegaard on the right-hand side. He did what he needed to do. He had a very vital intervention on one of the chances that Brentford had when they were coming forward. He just got a leg to it. And I thought, this is what we got Cedric for. We need somebody that could step in and just be good. Just be good. Like, just don't be shit. Like, you know what I mean? And he's done that in the last 2 games. It's almost like he got his mind right or something. Like somebody must have shook him and said, like, look, you've played in the Premier League before. You're very experienced. Why are you playing so badly? So I think all of that to say that I think he was very, very good today. And so I'm going to give Cedric a 7.5. I think he was very, very solid. And he gave us the chance not to have to risk Tomiyasu. And that's the most important thing. What do you think?
No, 100%. I think, even when we spoke yesterday, I said this is a game where Cedric could actually be very crucial in terms of how we attack. And I think he did that. Even when you look at his sort of dead ball situations in terms of crossing, I think he came to something where we ended up with like 11 corners, and his involvement in those corners was an 86% accuracy in terms of finding someone in the box, which is impressive considering the level of corners we had. And in terms of just interlinking with Odegaard, Saka in the first half, did everything you needed to. Nothing came down his side. I wasn't sat there thinking, why did you let that man go? There was a defensively good, attackingly good, just a solid all-round performance. I've got to say 7 for him as well.
All right, cool. Ben White, he's becoming more and more steady. Like, it's just, I'm starting not to even like really notice him, to be honest. And he had some good balls over the top to Bukayo Saka. He also dribbled out of the back a couple times. And I thought, where in sometimes in the past where we played against a lowish block and Gabriel and White kind of struggled to find the midfield and struggled to vary their distribution. I thought White did a very good job with that. He stepped in when he had to. He cleaned up when he had to. They didn't have a lot to do, but I think that they were, again, if he was culpable for the goal, I don't know if he was or not, but ultimately I think he had a very solid game. So I'm going to give him a 7.5 as well, just like Cedric. Very solid. But I do have to say that as I think I have a different man of the match, but it was really close between that person and Gabrielle. I thought Gabrielle really stood out today. I thought Gabrielle was amazing today. I don't know what you think about, like, because I know you're going to give me Ben White, but I want to get your take on Gabrielle and how good he was today, because he stood out to me in terms of he was so physical with Mbembo and their other players, like, and they're very physical, and that's what they want to do. They want to kick it up top and then knock balls down and stuff. He didn't allow them to do that. He was very, very good today. So for me, Gabrielle actually gets an 8, where Ben White gets a 7.5. But that partnership is just looking so solid, and I'm loving it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, Ben White 7, Gabriel probably 7.5. But I do think Gabriel's distribution was not the greatest today. There were some sloppy moments, but we know that's what he is. He's not a distribution centre back. He's more of the physical, getting into it and preventing us from being sort of dominated physically. And I think he did that really well, especially. Obviously the question marks were over Ivan Toney, whether he would stuck, because Thomas Frank said he's in light training, so that could mean just a off the bench performance, or he may come on. That massively obviously benefited both our sort of defenders. But saying that, they handled everything well. There was no point where I thought they're going to score, and I'm hearing Spurs have scored. Oh, for God's sakes! I'll have to, but I'm a bit behind. But anyways, yeah, it was a solid performance in terms of just their pairing and understanding, and how calm. Even though his distribution was poor, he still looks calm when he receives the ball. So that's, I guess, a good thing. It'll only get better as time comes. Oh, how did they concede that? Oh, anyways,
They were caught out. They looked stupid.
and yeah, so yeah, that I do agree. I don't think he's my man of the match. And for me, I've got a very under the radar man of the match. But yeah, that's what I'll say on them too. They just it's fantastic, isn't it, to have two solid. It's been a long time where we can actually praise our defense for once.
Yeah. Yo-Yo says Gabrielle and Ramsdale's unforced errors led to Brentford's half chances. And I guess where I push back on that is that when you say Ramsdale's unforced errors cause half chances, are we not taking into account the fact that he's being asked to make these risky passes? That's why we have him. And so are they unforced, or do you want him back there passing like Leno, 5 feet, 10 yards, 5 yards, just sideways and into the person right next to him, so we don't get that varied passing? Gabriel, he did have some some moments in possession, but like, players make mistakes, and like nobody has 100% pass completion. So overall, when you take that into account and you give that margin for error, I still think that they were both really good today. But it feels like almost the fan base is like, if you don't have a perfect pass percentage, and because we focus on the 1 or 2 passes that they got wrong, and I don't know if I see it that way, come on, but
We play that high risk, sort of high risk, high reward football, and even when you look at the likes of, you know, the City centre backs, whoever they are, like, whether it's Stones, whether it's Diaz, whether it's, Laporta playing, they're going to have these occasions. Even when you look at the domination of like Barcelona's treble winning side, you had Piqué and Puyol make. Sometimes they did get themselves untangled. You can't expect 100% perfection, especially in this sort of football. And especially with the way Brentford press with their two strikers and then their midfield getting involved onto one or two defenders. So yeah, no, it happens, and this is part of what we need to learn to accept. And I
if
think
it's less times than like, you know what I mean, then it's kind of like it just is what it is to me, more like it's a part of the game than like, oh, they have all these unforced errors. Like for me, an unforced error is more, we've seen what those are, like getting picked off, when you're passing the ball through the back and get picked off and they pass in the back of the net. So yeah, I cannot believe that Manchester City have allowed this to happen. But yeah, so moving on to Tierney, I think he was solid, but not amazing. I know why people want to see Tavares play. And I get that because he's like more exciting, but I just think Tierney was just maybe a step below the rest. Like I would give him like a 6.5, 7. It was an average performance from him. I think he needs to vary his crossing. I think when you see that it's Lacazette, and I don't know if this is being told to him, like keep crossing it like this, because at some point we'll get a striker that could head it in. But let's just assume that he's not. He needs to vary his passing. I think his passing is a little bit too like we know what's going to happen, and Lacazette is never going to get those headers. So I'd like him to find cutbacks sometimes, or maybe, just hit it low and hard and see if he can get a deflection or something. But other than that, I think he was solid and just did his thing. And so I think I'm going to give him a 6.5. He definitely wasn't as good as Cedric. He wasn't as good as the rest of the back line, but he was still solid. And I think his solidity is what makes the defense more balanced. I think when you start to throw too many X factors in, that's when you start to lose a little bit of that. And that's why I'm not that desperate to see Tavares at the moment, but I can see why people want to see him. What do you think, Souls?
No, I agree. I think the dynamic of the team has to change in terms of one of the midfields has to drop into that left half space. That's one of the benefits of having Tierney, or Tomiyasu and Cedric, etc., because it doesn't change the dynamic or the tactics too much. And that's it, because we know what Tavares is. He's not a great defensive fullback. Yes, he's okay. He can do a job. But especially when you come across a tricky winger or two wingers, I don't think Tavares is the guy that you want to have there. So, and as much as I agree with the crossing aspect, Lacazette doesn't bust a gut to get into the box, and it's by the time the wingers and the wing backs or whoever's got the ball out wide and playing across in, it's very difficult because they kind of just have to throw it into the mixer because he's not there. So I think Tierney's just trying to do whatever he can to hope he can find someone. And I think that's why we need that striker, someone who's going to be hungry, and get into the box firstly for Tierney to be able to pick a pass. At the minute, he's just crossing it into the mixer, and that will improve once we get someone who's in the box or ready to, receive a ball. But yeah, no, I do think the Tierney, when he first joined that cutback, the crosses, used to put a bit of zing and zap into it. But recently I'm seeing a bit more of a Bellerin type attacking performance where it's always these floaty crosses, and it's just, you don't do that against a 6'6" or 6'5", what's his name, like Ajay or whatever his name is. You don't do that. Like, he's too tall. He's taller than anyone on the pitch, and he's always centrally in the box as well. So that's how I see it. But yeah, it's a 6. He's just been Tierney, hasn't he? Like, just his
that's what it's like. He's just Tierney, like.
He's not done anything exceptional, but he's not done anything bad. It's just, for him, it's just, this is what you get. He's like a Nacho Monreal, isn't he? He's just a 6'7". He's a solid, consistent performer. And that's what we're going to get from him.
Exactly. So, moving on to the midfield. I thought the midfield had a great game. Still some things that like what the hell, but we've seen that and if there was any question about it before, there's no question about it now. we have, and this may change when we play more difficult teams, but we went away from home to Wolves and played a 4-3-3. We played at home against Brentford and played in a 4-3-3. Granit Xhaka was playing as an 8. He was not playing as a double pivot. Thomas Partey was playing alone. I definitely think that this is a long-term plan to move to a 4-3-3, even if we're not ready. So Xhaka looks weird right now, definitely in that position, because he did a really good job, but we know he's immobile. So there was moments where he was in good positions where I think if he had been a more agile midfielder, we would have got more bang for our buck for that risk. But I think in terms of like Thomas Partey being alone in that midfield, I think he was really good today. And you guys know, like, he's my guy. Like, I love Thomas Partey. I'm always going to kind of defend him. I'm Thomas Partey FC all day long, but I do think playing alone in that midfield and managing it the way they did. Of course, he had a moment or two where he misplaced balls and all that kind of stuff, but I think ultimately he was very, very good. He didn't get a card. He was just good. I thought he was very good, and he had the assist for Saka's goal, and he was one of the first people to just release the freaking ball. I think that there was a lot of hesitancy in the final third, and that hurt our ability to make the moves early and get our attackers in good advantageous positions without the defense being set up. And I think Thomas did the right thing and released the ball at the right time. And so overall, I thought Thomas Partey was really good. I'm going to give him a 7.5. Thought he was, good. But at the same time, like, it's Brentford, so I'm not like getting over the top. Like, I know that they're not very good and they don't have a very good midfield. So Thomas Partey for me gets a 7.5. What do you think about Thomas and the midfield in general?
Yeah, actually quite like Xhaka where he is. I think the reason why we've done it is to kind of mask over the deficiencies he has in his game in terms of the way that he's immobile and the way that he can't really resist press and to kind of eliminate the mistakes he makes when we play out the back and not to be the outlet. Because when we look at Thomas Partey, as much as yes, we want him further up the pitch to affect the pitch on in the final third of the final third phase of the play, but ultimately we've got to do what's best for the team. And at the moment, sacrificing Partey to allow Xhaka to do what he does is probably better for the overall team and the way we build up. And it means he's not going to put himself into positions where those red cards are going to be an occurrence. And even if you look at the last two games, like there's not really many moments where I'm sat there thinking Xhaka's going to get booked and he's going to get sent off. And I think it may be just a tactical ploy by Arteta to eliminate any sort of responsibilities where he comes untangled. So I do think, as much as I think this is, and he said a 4-3-3 is his ideal sort of starting formation. And obviously, we want to see how the dynamic works and what we need. And we've seen Arteta do this before, where he does things just so we know what we need, and in terms of trying a striker out and seeing, okay, do we need an Aubameyang, do we need a Lacazette? And it's clear to me we're trying to get a Lacazette-esque profile, but with the ability to score a bag full of goals, and that's just the direction we're moving in. And I think, yeah, I like it. And I think for me, my man of the match was Odegaard, and I'll get on to obviously that in a moment. But in terms of Thomas Partey, brilliant. This is somewhat of the party we want to see consistently in terms of breaking the line, driving with the ball. And to be fair, I was a bit annoyed at the assist because I was like, oh, for God's sakes, make the pass, because I'm like, Saka's running. And I was like, but you know what? This is what the elite are. This is what makes, good players stand out from average players. It's their timing and their ability to know when to make a pass. And for us, a lot of us, and I know generally a lot of people, like, that pass was late or it could have been late, but brilliant. And for me, yes, Partey gets a solid 8 for me. I think he did everything he needed to do. Xhaka for me gets a 7. I just think it was a little bit not on the races, but there were moments, especially there was I can't remember, but it was like a well-run header, but he just missed it. I think it might have been from an Odegaard cross,
Mhm.
which was quite good in the second half, and it could have been 2-0 or 3-0 at that point. But yeah, I do generally think that midfield dynamic is working a lot better than I thought.
Yeah, I think the thing about Granite for this position is it's not ideal for him to be in that position in terms of his mobility, but Arteta has coached him how to be positionally aware, being further up the pitch. So we're not getting exposed. And I'm sure, when we're out of possession, obviously Xhaka drops, but when we're in possession, he goes forward and creates the angle so that we can get up the pitch quick. And so I'm liking what I'm seeing because all I can see is a better midfielder in that position, giving us a lot more, but I do think Xhaka played very well. He made some, like go in. Made some he didn't make a lot of errors. Like he was just very composed and kind of normal. Didn't get his little card that he always gets, didn't scare us, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna give Xhaka a 7. Like I think he was just really good and solid. This isn't the position that I feel like he needs to be playing, but like if we play against lower level opposition like this, I'm not scared.
Yeah.
Moving on to Odegaard, he's also my man of the match as well. And the difficult part about giving him man of the match is that I also feel like he should share a little bit of the burden in terms of criticism in the final third. Everything good that we did today was about Odegaard. Like he was so good today, slick on the ball. He's also getting better in terms of like being able to ride challenges and stuff like that. So I think he's doing a good job there. But I guess he had the opportunity to shoot with his right and he didn't do that. And that's really the next step for him is like if he's going to be our key playmaker, he needs to add goals to his game. He needs to be taking more shots, and he took the one shot with his left foot and it was kind of wide, but Raya touched it and I just thought, why didn't you shoot like that when you were closer? I don't want him getting the Ozil disease, where it's kind of like I just want the assist. Like, I need you to shoot. And so, even though I do think that he needs to share a little bit of the burden in terms of our lack of clinical edge in the final third in that first half, I think he was the best player on the pitch for us. Everything good that we did went through him. And it was, again, our best player. He's our best technical player. He does it for us. And he's just also getting a little bit of that chippiness and like making sure that he's pressing and getting involved in tackles. And of course, he's never going to be, like a robust midfielder in that way, but I like seeing him get a little bit stronger. So I'm actually going to give Odegaard a 9. He would have been perfect if he would have taken that shot and it would have went in. I think he was damn near perfect. What do you think?
No, 100%. Obviously, one of my favourite players at Arsenal as well. And I've said I think the acquisition was quite a smart one, especially the way that we held out and tried to get it for 30 million. Technically, vision, press. He's everything you need to be an influential number 10. He's got the work rate. He does everything that comes through him just turns into gold. And the way that I always describe him, he's got that Busquets effect where because everything's done so eloquently and so simply, and he makes it simple brilliant. And that's what Busquets does. Like everything that goes through Busquets goes so under the radar of how important he is. And for me, that's exactly what Odegaard's kind of suffering because everything he does is so simple, so good, and he doesn't make mistakes. And it doesn't look good. That's why people don't realize how good he actually is. But yeah, his finishing, look, we knew he wasn't the best of finishers. He's not going to be a double figure goal scorer. He's not that kind of person. But what he offers us is the ability to get those goals and the ability to break lines and the ability for ESR to get those 8-9 goals that he got, for Saka to get the goals he's getting, for Lacazette to do what he's doing. And for me, he's trying to win the first ball. If he does need goals for the second ball, he's constantly linking up where he needs to be. He's all over the place. And that's for me why I give him man of the match. I thought it was going to be a very under the radar man of the match for me, but yeah, it's got to be like a 9 performance day. And I think he's been doing that week in, week out. This isn't the first time. It's just, I think we're realizing it a bit more, what he actually offers. And I think he's going to be a massive miss if anything happens to him. I think we stop operating the way that we do, how fluid he is. And yeah, I've always said it, he's Ozil with press. And that's the way I see him. The next step for him is just that eye for goal and getting that a little bit more consistent because he can score. He's got a good strike on him. And I just think sometimes he just needs to believe in that a little bit more. And I see him becoming De Bruyne-esque. And I know that's a far-fetched, but I do think he's got everything in him to become a goal-scoring and assisting midfielder. Not 10, 15 goals and 10, 15 assists, but sort of like 5, 6 goals and maybe that 10 to 15 assist mark. Just like De
Yeah.
Bruyne, he's not a goal-scoring midfielder, but he's a smooth operator, and that's how I see him.
Yeah. And Liam, I hear what you're saying if you're frustrated by his performance. If you have a different man of the match, we're more than happy to hear who that is. But he didn't miss multiple sitters. He didn't get any cutbacks. He didn't
There was
get,
just that one sitter.
yeah, he had one chance where he could have shot it. So like missing multiple sitters is a little bit of a reach. But I get if you don't think that he's good enough to be man of the match. Fair enough. So let's move forward to I'm gonna do Saka. Did I do Saka next? He had some good moments on the ball where he like turned players and stuff in the first half. You could tell like towards the back end of the second half he needed, or the back end of the first half he needed to start drifting a little bit, and finding space in other places. But I think it's still this is the thing about Saka is like I still think there's more levels for him to go up. I think there was a moment in time where he was really playing like so excellent. And he's a notch below that right now. And I don't know why that is. This was better than the Wolves performance for sure. So I think I'm just wanting to see a little bit more from him. But what I will say is his worst performances are still better than a lot of other people's. And he still got the goal. And that's the most important thing. Once he started floating, why do they keep allowing them to be just like free? Like it's insane. Every time I look up, they're just free. But watching Saka like move to the other side, because Pepe obviously came in, he moved to the other side and he gave us the goal that sealed the game away. I just think he's so important, for us. And he gets fouled a lot. He doesn't get a lot of the calls, but I just want him to start getting into the box a little bit more, get into the box a little bit more so that they have to foul you there, make them make a decision, but I thought he was good, so I'm going to give him a 7.5. I think, no, actually I'm going to give him an 8. I'm going to give him an 8. Not as influential as Odegaard, and it may seem weird because it's like, well, Odegaard didn't score, so how can he get a higher score than Bukayo Saka? But everything good that we did came from Odegaard. And had Saka not scored, I think we would have been giving him like maybe a 7. So I'm going to give him an 8 for the goal. But yeah, he's still one of our most important players, and I love him. What do you think?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to him being able to evade those fouls and those like sort of rotational fouls, as a lot of people call them. And the minute he learns that, he'll become a bigger threat. I think he's kind of going through that phase where people know they need to nullify him, and the only way they can do that is not by defending. He's going to get that Messi treatment where the only way to stop him is by fouling him and pulling his shirt, pulling him down. And the problem is, because of the perception Arsenal have, we don't get a lot of these calls. And sometimes, because I'm not going to say he's weak because he's very strong, but when you're running at sort of pace, it's very easy to just fall over and have those like light fouls where they're not really fouls, so you're not going to get free kicks for them. So, but I do think the way that Odegaard's kind of supporting him on that right-hand side is exactly how he's going to evolve into a player. And the way that Cedric obviously draws players and gives Saka a bit of room. And I think once we become a bit more fluid with our front three, it'll only get us to be better in terms of maybe Saka drifting out on the left for a minute or two in a phase of play, and ESR coming out onto the right, or Martinelli coming out to the right. And so it's difficult. I think this is always going to happen with young players. They're going to go through a patch where they don't look as good as they did when they burst onto the scene. But he's still phenomenal. He's still so good. But the expectation of him is like, we're expecting so much more. But even his 7s are so of such a good quality.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not really a 7. It's like an 8 or a 9, but it's because it's Saka's 7 though, and that's what I'm going to give him. It's
because we know he's going to go up a couple more levels, right? Yeah. Like we know this is not it, so it's kind of like, yeah, this is good. This is kind of what I expect from him, But I've seen him really dice up play maybe like a month or so ago, and I want to see more of that. But then they're also overloading more and putting more bodies on him and stuff, so it's gonna be difficult. But the best thing that we can do is allow him to be a little bit more free. If you allow him to be a little bit more free, then all those defenders just on the our right-hand side, that won't work. So I think we need to get more comfortable allowing him to be a little bit more free. So Saka 8, 7.5, 8, good enough. Lacazette. It's crazy because we know we need a striker, but I can't help but saying, like, damn, we need a striker. Like, we need something. Lacazette is just, he did some good stuff, but he also just was kind of like in the box, just looks so devoid of any sort of like innovation or anything or any sort of confidence. And like, he had one moment where he was wide open for the shot, probably should have passed it, but then didn't even work the keeper. And we can just see like we desperately need somebody, and he's looking whack. And so I think we may see an opportunity sooner. I don't know. We spoke about this on the preview. Like, is there an opportunity maybe to use Martinelli through the middle? It's difficult because Lacazette is the captain, but at the same time, like, could we get a little bit more out of that position? Are we over indexing what he does in build up a little bit too much? Do we need that as much as we need somebody to put the ball in the back of the net? He looks like he's devoid of confidence. Like, and that's not good. And we can't carry him for the rest of the season. Like, he needs to get some form in terms of goals at some point. And I don't think, like, even like Oyatalani was saying, his passing was even off today. There was a moment to put Saka clean through and on goal, and he just passed it straight to the Brentford player. And it's like, well, if you're not giving us that, then what are you giving us? So for me, Lacazette, as harsh as it's going to seem, I have to give him a 4.5. Like, I just thought it was really bad today. Sorry. So 4.5, 5. That's where I'm going. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think for me, I'm one of those kind of fans that like Buster got to get into the box at least. Like, just stop jogging about and it's like it's weird because it's like he gives us good effort, but then at the same time he doesn't give us effort, and it's just and he's an annoying player because there's moments where you should be busting a gut to get into the box, especially when you've started a move, and he just doesn't do that. And every time he runs into the box, he's like the furthest player away, and his passing's been off, and today I think the question became a lot more clearer because I do think Martinelli can come in and do a lot better, and we wouldn't miss what Lacazette does because of the way Odegaard's operating. I think Odegaard on his own in that midfield and the way Partey's playing, the way even Xhaka, to be fair, is playing, we can do without him having to drop into the midfield. And even if you need someone to do that, you've got Odegaard doing it. And if you want, even Martinelli can do that. The only difference is the difference was whether he can pass the ball as good as Lacazette can do. But at the minute, Lacazette's passing isn't that great anyway. So are we really
I
missing
mean,
anything
he's
by
not
trying
putting
him?
in De Bruyne and Ozil level passes. They are layoffs in
Yeah.
space to the attackers.
Yeah,
Like,
and I think Martinelli's a far more clinical and aggressive striker. That even when you look at Tierney, like he'll start getting a few more assists, and he's kind of one of those for me where I'm sat here thinking, what's the worst that can happen? I think we get more goals with Martinelli as a striker, and that's the way I feel anyway. But I think today it was just sloppy. Yes, he got the assist, but that's probably the only good thing he did, and I've got to give him like a 4 because that's just because he got the assist. If he didn't get the assist, I'd be thinking, what did you really do?
geez, yeah, it was a little like, yeah, it was rough. And like, at some point there need to be goals at the end of that, like at least one or two sprinkled in. I mean, at some point. And like, I don't know, it may seem harsh. I'll rewatch the game and see if I feel differently, but right now I'm not feeling great about Lacazette's performance, so I'm just going to leave it there. ESR, did he have, I mean, he scored the goal after this, the second half started, which is what we really needed. Did he have the level of performance that you need for him to keep that spot, knowing Martinelli will be available for Wolves?
No, because there was moments in that game where I was like, if Martinelli was playing, and that question that's what you should be erasing if Martinelli's playing. And I think in a lot of those sections, I was thinking that. And that's the only thing I will say. But look, everything he did was somewhat of what we've seen at the beginning of the season. But at the same time, if it wasn't for the goal, how highly would we really rate his performance? And for me, it was like a 5-6 performance, but then the goal got him, I think, that 7 or a 7.5. But it's one of those very difficult ones because it's the one that broke the lead, it's the one that broke the duck, and it's a very vital goal to get. And the way he took it as well was brilliant. The way he placed it into the corner, the technique, the ability to just drive with the ball. But then why the question I ask myself is, why am I asking what Martinelli would do in this game if ESR was that good? So I don't think he's given me enough to say, he should be dropping Martinelli. But the only reason he probably drops him is because to teach Martinelli a lesson to not to do those stupid things, not because of ESR's performance. So what I want to see is ESR on the left and Martinelli go in the middle. So that's what I ultimately kind of want to see. But he didn't do enough. If we're looking at position to position.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been scoring goals and he hasn't been able to get into the team over Martinelli. And I'm not sure that I feel like what he did outside of the goal really was more than what Martinelli would have done. But at the same time, I do recognize that he needs more minutes. He needs to get that game fitness going back again. You can kind of see that he was getting tired. He needed to come out. He had some good moments where he was able to and get into a good position to cross the ball and stuff like that. So thank God City equalized. Whew. Okay. So thank the Lord. All right. But I think ESR did grow into the game a little bit, but I just want to see a little bit more. I think that's just all I'm saying. And maybe I'm being unfair on ESR because he's not, when Martinelli plays, he's like a tenacious little like Rottweiler, and ESR is a little bit different than that. So maybe I'm a little bit harsh because I'm not seeing that same level of like, but ESR did have some moments where he like picked the ball off of people and he tackled, so I'm going to rewatch it and see if I'm being too harsh. But I still think if we do a match preview for Wolves, I still will feel inclined to pick Martinelli, and I think that's kind of where I'm sitting. So ESR, I'm gonna give him an 8. I think he was good. He was average in the first half, but then the goal really brought him up, and there you go. Pepe, what did you think about Pepito when he came on? I think that he was lively and looked good, so for me, I'm looking at that like, Arteta, please use this. Please use this. Please lean into it. Against Wolves, of course, you're going to start Bukayo Saka, but you have Wolves away. I mean, I think he could even do a job on Leicester. Leicester are terrible defensively. You know what I mean? Like, there could be some opportunities to use Pepe now when he's feeling good about himself. The comments that Arteta made about him, this is the best that he's seen him, he looks a lot more bright and all that kind of stuff. Do not let this light dim because you don't have enough goal scorers in your team. And if somebody gets injured or we need somebody off the bench, we need more than Nketiah coming off of that bench. So for me, just for the cameo performance, obviously, because he didn't do much, I do think that he probably should have gotten a penalty, if not a foul, on that one that they had on the corner of the box. I'm not really sure why that wasn't called, but he did look better. You could tell his body language was good and stuff. So I'm going to give Pepe a 6.5. But Arteta needs to use this. He needs to use this, like, for real, as far as I'm concerned. But what do you think about Pepe?
Yeah, I think he's surprise is the wrong word, but he kind of surprised a few people today because he looked a lot more lively. He looked a lot more hungry to try and impact the game in a positive way. And when he came on, that game did shift in his favour as well. And obviously, the spacing behind, I think he held the ball well. He was technically good. There could have been that penalty shout was a penalty shout. I think at least look at it, if anything. But in terms of, and this is why I say, like, I want to see him as a substitution, the same way we've been using ESR, because against a tiring defense where maybe we're 1-0 up and the opposition, especially in this sort of part of the season, Brentford are going to need to try and go for a goal and try and get a result at least, because of how poor they've been. They've not won in 6 games, and they know they need something out of these games. So the spaces are going to open, and bringing on a Pepe, someone who's going to literally push you right back, pin you back into your own half, is exactly what we need. And we need to start giving him minutes, because we need to keep him sharp. We need to keep him engaged, and I think Arteta is managing him well. He's not good enough to start. There's no questions about that. I know some parts of the fan base do think he should be starting ahead of Martinelli, ahead of ESR, and maybe moving Saka or giving him a different role because of the amount of goals he doesn't score. But for me, it's at the minute this system's working. There's no point of changing it and tweaking it just to help one player. It's about Pepe doing enough to want to start and giving us that solidity that he's technically good enough to start. So yeah, I'd say for me, as a sub appearance, that's a 7.5. Like, it's as good as it gets without getting a goal and assist. That's the only thing missing. But I think he should have got a penalty at least, which is a positive in my eyes.
Yeah. And I mean, if like I was thinking, okay, if Martinelli had not been injured or not injured, sorry, suspended, there might have been an opportunity to like do the shift and maybe take out Lacazette and put Martinelli in midfield, put Martinelli central and drop ESR somewhere else and add more attackers, like in different types of attackers. And so it'll be interesting to see when everybody's available what Arteta does. But it was nice to see that Pepe has jumped the line over Nketiah, because he added nothing to the game when he came on. Shock. He didn't have a lot of time, but at the same time, I don't usually use that as an excuse, because as a sub, you have to make the most out of your time. And that comes like sometimes that's just chasing players down, getting stuck in, making a tackle. And I'm just not seeing that. So seeing Pepe come on first, I think was a good sign. And we need all of the attack that we can get from the players that can actually add something to it. And Pepe is one of those. So I was happy to see him come on and look bright. Hopefully Arteta uses that. Before we get to Arteta's rating, what do you think about the refereeing? What are these men doing?
It wasn't the worst, but then there was 2 moments for me. Was a Lacazette offside goal at the beginning. That wasn't offside. That should have been 1-0. That was shocking.
Xhaka, they were saying Xhaka was offside. That's what they said in the...
All right, I need to look back at it, but from what I've seen, I couldn't see anyone offside. And for me, the fact that all this VAR stuff wasn't really done, they showed us one replay and they never showed us that goal again, was just a bit... And the only other one, which was the Pepe one, but then, look, I'm not expecting them to get 100% right. I think overall, the game was managed well. There was a few, like, sort of, he could have played advantages where Gabriel was running with the ball. Partey had the ball, and we kept the ball. They could have just let us play on, but yeah, the referee didn't do anything we sit here and say we could have been 5-6-0 up if it wasn't for the ref. So I can't really sit here and blame John Moss. I think it was a whatever. They didn't do anything to influence the game, which is the only thing you can do.
Yeah, I mean, it was more VAR for me. I just think that, at least one of the ones that happened in that one sequence where Lacazette and Ben White both thought they got fouled. At least that was a penalty. And for sure, the handball, that was a handball. Like sliding into the box, putting your arm up like this. I'm sorry, like I hate to be like this, but if that was somebody else and they would have put their arm up like that away from their body and handballed it, in the box, it would have been called. It was a certain pen, and Pepe's probably was a penalty as well. So I think VAR was trying their hardest not to give us anything. We still won the game either way, but I just need Arsenal to continue to make the referees make decisions like that, because some of them are eventually going to go our way. And so, yeah, but I think I don't think John Moss was terrible. Like you said, I think he let the game play on. I think what he did a better job of allowing the game to be more physical and not calling every single time somebody touched somebody. I like that. When Rico Henry was being physical on Saka, he didn't call it. But then when Rico Henry went down on the other end and thought he got fouled, he didn't call it. So I was kind of like okay with it. VAR was trash. We should have gotten at least one penalty. It is what it is. And in terms of Arteta, like if we want to rate him, I think he did fine. Like there wasn't much really to do. Once ESR retired, I was like, are you going to sub soon? And he finally did. It seems like he's so like he doesn't like to sub. Please score. And so I don't know. I think Arteta was fine. He passed today. I give him a 7. You know, it was fine. He didn't have much to do. You need to beat Brentford. You know, wasn't much drama. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No, I'd say a bit higher because of the way we played. I think today, if anything, the attackers I'd say the attackers, but yeah, the attacking players let us down in terms they could have backed so many more goals. And that to me is exactly what the manager, that's all they can do, is set you up to play the best football, to dominate your opponents. And that's exactly what we did. There was no point in that game where I thought, okay, you've done something stupid here. And for me, it didn't. You know what, Arteta can go, galaxy brain on this stuff when he loses a player. He kept it simple. He didn't change too many things. But I know we've got Wolves coming up, and he didn't. And this is why I said it. When he gets questioned about top 4, the way he answers it, I like that mentality, because it's very easy to go, yeah, we're getting top 4, to overlook a Brentford and go, actually, we've got Wolves. Wolves is more important. Let's bring Tavares in. Let's bring and tweak the team too much and bring in a Lokonga and bring in, maybe Pepe to start with instead, and just do too much. And I think he kept it simple. He knows what works, and yeah, I think he gets an 8. Substitutions were at the right time. There were good substitutions as well.
There are only substitutions. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like those are our only substitutions. But I hear what you're saying, and like. The best thing that I think that Arteta has learned is not to weaken 2 positions. We talked about that. We wanted Cedric. Please don't do the thing where you put Ben White at right back and you bring in Holding. Holding played. I'm glad that he resisted the urge to play Holding. Like in a game where Brentford were going to sit back. Cedric did just fine. So he did a good job. And it's a game that we're expected to win. We didn't make a meal of it. And whatever he said at halftime got them into a better headspace to just be more clinical. And I like that. Overall team rating, Tony's asking for it. Team performance overall. What did you think of it? You can give it out of 10.
I agree with like 8.5. I think it wasn't the only reason I don't want to give it higher is because of the finishing and how unclinical we were. If it was like a 4-0, 5-0 performance, I would have given it a lot higher. But they did everything they needed to do. There wasn't really any threat or anything. So yeah, no, I think an 8.5 or an 8 performance. It was as good as you're going to get, other than the lack of goals.
Yeah, we actually created chances this time. Like there are several things that I could see that I'm like we could have easily scored a goal then, and we just didn't. And there were times earlier on in the season where I remember watching Ben White and Gabriel just stand on top of the ball and not know what to do with it. And we were standing at the halfway line, recircling. And recycling the ball and putting them under sustained pressure for a long period of time. They got very little opportunities to score against us. We looked very confident in possession. The first half, if it had a goal in it, is probably one of the best first half or best 45 minutes that we've played. Like in terms of the ball playing was really, really good. So add that last little piece and we're doing well. So I think I would give us an 8 overall. Still some levels to go, but loving the team, loving the performance. And yeah, so let's go ahead and end there so we can all cheer for Man City. I mean, literally, like, I'm like, what are they doing? Like, every time that Spurs come down, I think they're going to score for some reason. It's really scary, but go ahead and watch the game. I will be back on Monday to chat more with you guys about what's going on with the Arsenal. I'll let you guys know times and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to the national team game tomorrow, so nothing for me tomorrow, But enjoy the rest of your weekends, guys. Be safe. Is it still windy? Did it calm down? Is it gone? The wind
I
stop?
don't know. I've not really heard anything today, so I'm guessing it's kind of the same, or
It's
probably,
fine. Okay.
yeah. Or we're just
All
getting
right.
used to it. Like, oh, this is the new norm now.
Ah. Well, if it is still windy, you guys don't get blown away. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.